So we're at step or part 3 of the video. The you know, this tray is interesting, pretty solid in this area, but you know, like a diving board at the end. So who knows how good that's going to be. We're moving on to step 6 here. Yeah, let's go ahead and get some light going again. We're going to put these top posts, and it appears, you know, that you should have probably lined this up as shown here. So this might cause some problems later on. We may have some rework. So that would be good if they had told you that early on, right? So I may have to go down, loosen the set screw, and rotate this thing. But before I do that, I'm going to assemble these. And to do that, we need little g, little d. So basically the same parts, it appears. And we'll use our use the exact same Allen head. So still like this. I don't like the directions, I'll tell you that much, but most stuff you get from China, unless it was, you know, American designed, you're going to have these kind of problems. Don't know why that is. Just, you know, I don't want to call it laziness. Maybe they're, you know, a little bit behind the good old USA as far as designing stuff goes. I know what I'm looking at for drawings are pretty primitive, I'll call them. So this doesn't look like it's lining up so great. So we'll tighten this down, loosen up the set screw, and try and get this angled properly. I think somewhere in there I got, I'd say frustrated, but I dropped my Allen wrench. So we're going to have some problems here, folks. Finishing this. You know, also the type of washer they're using here is really not the right one for this on a curved surface. I'm going to pause it while I look for the Allen wrench. Alright, so we found it. And basically, yeah, we're just going to tighten these down. So they do have, you know, curved washers you can get. But this looks like it'll work good enough. Slide this down a little. Hopefully you guys can see this. I don't plan on editing this. So what you see for the total time length is how long it took me to slap it together. Okay, so there's that. Now, like I said, we have to loosen up the set screw so that we can get these posts in the right direction. Before we do that, let's go ahead and drop this thing in so you guys can see it. One of these caps was in already, whatever reason. This guy was not, so we're going to pop that cap in. And so the cap's in, folks. This thing's not quite as tall as I thought it was going to be. Let's pause again. So looking at this, they want the hardware facing backwards, right? So this has to rotate a little bit, and this one has to rotate a lot. So yeah, it would have been nice early on if we knew what we were doing. So I'm loosening this up, then I'm going to come over here, loosen up the set screw, and then I'm just going to try my best, folks, to line that up. It looks good now. We're going to switch over to the other side. It would be nice if whatever is supposed to tie these things together, that you would connect them now as the next step. We'll see if that's the case. I haven't read too far ahead into the instructions. So we loosen that up. At least we think we've loosened it up. Maybe we haven't. Taking a little more effort. Okay, so if you're smart, you won't forget about the fact you loosened all that stuff up. So they are lined up now. And we just want to make sure the holes, make sure we understand which way the holes are going to go. So looking at this again, hardware is supposed to be in the back, so we have to rotate this 180 degrees. That makes sense, right? And then this guy, if we can get it to turn. There we go. Okay. Now, this turned out to be a lot more work than I thought it would be. Step 7. So the question, folks, is how in the hell this thing goes on here. So we want to go up high. Looks like you have your choice. And so they gave you two pictures here, okay? You want to look at this one to make sure you put it on there right. And obviously, well, here's the hardware we're going to use. I, H, and J. So we're going to have the bolt go this way into it. And so this shouldn't be too bad. It looks like we use these. Let's see. So little I is a M8 nut, H washer, and J is an M8 by 65 millimeter. There's 12 of those. That appears to be the biggest screw. So we're down to 4 of them. We've already used 8. And like I said, our screws are going to go this way. We're using the bigger washers. We need 4 washers. 4 of the bigger washers. And then we need these serrated collared nuts. I'm going to call them. I can't remember the name. I used to have to specify all kinds of parts. I would use locking nuts. I would use better hardware than what we're seeing here. Okay, so plus the big washers. Okay. Now, I'm going to rotate this up. You guys can see it, hopefully. It looks like you get to pick, folks, which set of holes you want to go with. You want your mount to be high? You want it to be low? How the hell do you want it? Is the question. And so I'm going to go with the high ones. Now, stability reasons, you might want to go lower, but okay. This doesn't line up with any of the... This is weird, folks. Doesn't line up. Our holes don't line up. I'm going to go through there. It's got to go through these. So you're going to have this offset, maybe? No. Wow, that is weird. It just didn't line up. So these may be coming in too far inward. Yeah. So you might have to actually put a little force in there to get these to allow you to actually use the existing holes. I was sitting there going, yeah, it's not lining up. That's part of the problem. Kind of the same problem we had earlier. Again. And so I'm going to run around to the back. You're not going to see this in the video, but I'm going to put 1 washer or 2 washers and 2 nuts on this, okay? So back here, big washer, nut. I'm not going to tighten it down because I still got 2 more to try and get in here. And of course we dropped a nut. So it doesn't look like they provide you any spare hardware in case you lose something, which is a bummer. Some of you will lose hardware. It's inevitable, right? That's why I said in the beginning, I like to throw all my hardware in a bowl. Now, looking at this, folks, this is kind of, looks like we might have missed something. Are we supposed to have a washer in there? No. So if you had extra washers, I would put one between the bolt and this bolt and this part called O right here. Let's make sure you guys can see that. Here's the bolt J, part O. I would put an extra washer in there if you had it. It doesn't look like you do. Potentially they should have used a different type of bolt. One with the actual flange on it would have been good. The slot looks pretty big in comparison to the head of the bolt. Not uncommon, folks, for problems to arise in designs like that. It would have been better to have a carriage bolt in here. It has the rectangular head on it, and it would have fit in here, and then you would have a round head on it. And that round head would have allowed you to basically ensure that it spreads the load as we tighten this down. Now this sheet metal, maybe it's thick enough that it's not a problem. Trying to think of something. Yeah, computer cases. One of the computer cases I worked on the other day, super thin metal. Kind of the same scenario. Now, if I turn this around, it'd make more sense to do this the other way. Okay, just because I'm doing it this way. More than one way to skin a cat. And once again, if you had the box wrenches, you're good. So I'll do this one opposite. Put the wrench in, and you won't see this from that side. There's two ways to do it. If you're right-handed, sometimes, like in this case, it's easier to work with the right hand on the back side. And if we had a box wrench, everything would be easier. So I have this lined up now, folks. Guess what? We can tighten the base up. We'll do that next, because we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves at this point. So we're going to dip this down. Still liking the quality, folks. I mean, the directions, they're what they are, right? Doesn't necessarily do any good to complain about. I don't think the Chinese care what the Americans think. Which is obviously when you talk about the South China Sea. All the other stuff that they don't care about. But yeah, this is solid. I was almost thinking for the money, this would be a nice platform to do something else with it. Oops. That's on there. Now we can line these up right. Now, if you don't put this together right, you don't tighten things down, you obviously could have problems, right? As you would expect. So I don't have a TV on here yet. And this will probably roll much better across regular flooring than it will on carpet.